It's been a while since we've dove into the 90s PC gaming. While it isn't my favorite decade of gaming, there was so much to explore in terms of experimentation seen in the games. Today's game, Died by the Sword, was released in the legendary year of 1998 and was developed by Treyarch of all companies. Unique to this fantasy action adventure is the vSim system, which allows players to freely control their weapon in a variety of ways. It even contains limb damage, giving you the ability to chop and decapitate others with the right swing. Sounds pretty cool, but can the execution meet this fun concept? When you start the game, there's quite a few options for you to choose from. The main mode is the quest mode, which is what we will start with. There's also a tutorial which I would highly recommend to go through first, as it gives you the ability to learn the controls and get a feel of the combat. For the quest itself, the story is that you and your girlfriend presumably end up getting captured by some kobolds, and now it's time to get her back. It's pretty standard and cliche story even for the time, so don't expect anything from a narrative standpoint. And now let's begin the main campaign. So as I stated before, this is ultimately an action-adventure game from the 90s. That means there's going to be some tank control nonsense as well as some awkward 3D platforming reminiscent of the old school Tomb Raider games. With that said, the combat system is ultimately what elevates this game from a generic title to a unique curiosity. There are several control schemes to choose from, but the default one used is called Keypad vSim. This allows the numpad on your keyboard to control the direction of your swings. For example, 4 on the numpad swings left, while 6 on the numpad swings right. Using a combination of your character and the numpad will result in various swings and strikes. The combat is completely physics based, meaning that a kobold can be easily knocked back with enough force in your swing. You can even cut the legs, arms, and head of your enemies with well-placed strikes, adding an unexpected level of strategy to the combat. As much praise as I'm giving the combat, there are still some issues here. For one, the physics-based technology used here is from the late 90s, which means you'll be presented with some 90s clunkiness. Strikes that barely touch you can somehow do devastating damage and end up knocking you off your feet. This is especially bad when fighting against giants who will send you flying. They don't even need to swing to really do any damage, which leads to some very awkward and frustrating moments. Also, don't be surprised if your weapon ends up getting stuck against your enemy's weapon and shield, as it was very common occurrence for me. As much time as Treyarch spent on the vSim mechanics, the same cannot be said for the AI. The AI is incredibly basic and only has 4 combat moves to use depending on the creature. Unfortunately, these attacks happen at pure random, meaning that it is very hard to predict what the AI is going to do next. My biggest gripe has to be with the AI jumping around all over the place, barely able to strike me. I get having the small kobolds jumping at me, but it makes no sense for the bigger enemies like the ogres to constantly hop forward. Honestly, the whole campaign just feels like one big afterthought, kind of like Treyarch's recent entries. It suffers from poor level design and brutal difficulty. One may think that this is a good thing that the game autosaves after every encounter, until you learn that there is no manual saving at all. Health items can also be incredibly scarce at times, meaning that the game can autosave at a point where you barely have any health. There's also those beginner traps like the infamous rope trap on the first level, which is technically avoidable, but only if you're aware of it to begin with. Like a lot of games of its time periods, there is a reason why the campaign is designed to be this hard. According to howlongtobeat.com, the campaign can be completed within 2 to 3 hours. There's also only 8 levels in total, giving very little replay value once this is completed. Even halfway through my playthrough, I just wasn't having any fun with the poorly designed encounters and the maze that was just frustrating to go through. While I really despise the original campaign, I did find the Live from Live campaign to be a far better experience. Outside of playing as the default warrior, you get quite a selection of characters to play as, including my favorite character, the Minotaur. He comes equipped with a huge halberd that can swing around for devastating damage. The only issue with him is it's very hard to downward swing properly. Still, I had fun playing as a more powerful character in this quest. There's also a bit more experimentation taken here with the level design, offering more puzzles, which is nice to see. Thankfully, there is more to the game than just the quest mode. What you'll most likely spend time in is the arena and tournament modes. Tournament mode is basically an arcade ladder where you pick a character and go through several matches to be crowned champion of the arena or something like that. At first, it starts out pretty easy fighting kobolds, but ends up getting pretty damn difficult with facing multiple giants at once. The arena mode is where you can pick your fighter and who you will be fighting against. There's quite a number of creative arenas to play with, and it's pretty enjoyable setting up different scenarios to participate in. You can even set up team fights as well as the ability to play multiplayer. I haven't tried this playing LAN myself, but I can see this being a pretty fun LAN game if it works properly. Playing through this and the tournament mode, I can't help but feel like the game would have been much better if it was just advertised as a pure arena fighting game rather than an action adventure. It could have solely focused on the arena and tournament modes and would have given an opportunity to expand the roster even further. I would have liked to have seen more weapons introduced to play around with, and maybe even a chance to refine some of the combat mechanics instead of spending time creating the quest mode. As this game is from the 90s, running on modern hardware and operating systems will have its own challenges. Outside of the bugs and physics glitches found throughout, just getting this game to start at all can be a challenge. From the 3 graphical modes offered throughout, I found the 3DFX glide mode to work the best. I'm assuming DirectX probably works better, but it either refuses to start or messes with the colors. Even using glide mode, this game will sometimes not start up for seemingly no reason at all. Overall, Die by the Sword is a mixed bag, but a very fun one. Playing in the arena and tournament mode with the various characters and weapons is quite fun to experiment with. It's also very satisfying chopping off the legs and arms of your enemies. Unfortunately, the main quest mode is a frustrating experience. The AI is pretty bad, and the age of the game is a huge detriment. Still, it's intriguing to play a game like this, seeing where companies like Treyarch began and what they end up becoming. I think it's safe to say that Die by the Sword is nothing like their modern Call of Duty games, for better or for worse. Thank you all for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.